What did the person do/say that made you go, what the fuck is wrong with you? Story 1. Encountered a racist old white guy in the gas station I'm in, just trying to grab some monster for work. He yells at the only Indian worker at the till, "I'm going to punch you in the face." She seemed new, probably fresh out of high school, as I'm a regular at the gas station. I shoot him a look, and he starts laughing. I ask, "What the heck is wrong with you?" He replies, "What?" It fit the song. It was Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe. I get so angry that I start mouthing at him, telling him to say it again, and I'll put his ass on the ground. I'm a 23-year-old, 6 feet 0.5 inches, 275-pound ex-American football player, and he's maybe 5 feet 8 inches, 180 pounds tops. The racist old guy starts saying, "Man, I wasn't even talking to you. Why are you so insecure?" I'm not insecure. I just hate racists and coyotes. Coyotes killed one of my cats. After I pay for my monsters, the lady at the till asks me if I could stick around after he leaves so he doesn't act on anything. As I'm waiting off to the side, the racist old white guy starts yelling about starting a fight with me. He pays for a single scoop ice cream cone and walks out, calling me to go out with him. I just let him go and do his thing outside. Not worth an assault charge when I'm just trying to go to work. Story 2. This is an incident I've tried to expunge from my memories but failed to do so. While some minor details elude me, the major points remain etched in my recollection. Back in January, at the time of this posting, I found myself in a Discord server with individuals I considered friends. I had known one, who we'll call Alex, for almost a year, and others gradually joined over time. Alex, the person I'd known the longest, was around 24, while Sam was 22, and Emma was 19. I, at the time, was 17. These age differences become significant later in the story. To give you some context, I initially met Alex in a Telegram group chat. We hit it off well, and for most of the year, we were on good terms. Sure, we had occasional disagreements, but who doesn't? By this point, I considered them cool, and I anticipated nothing untoward. I also encountered Sam in this server, but we didn't interact much. As the Telegram group expanded, it eventually transformed into a Discord server for better organization. Initially, everything was great until Emma joined. Emma was the type who always needed to have the last word and insisted on being right. There's another person, let's call them Max, a close friend at that time, who was involved in this. Now, onto the main event. Somehow, Sam and Emma concocted the idea that I was manipulative and abusive to Max. They informed Alex, who believed them, but no one bothered to bring these accusations to my attention. According to them, I had supposedly manipulated and mistreated Max for months. This led to a prolonged and intense argument where the three of them bullied both me and Max, pushing us into some of the worst mental states we've experienced. I have no clue why they targeted Max, but that was just the beginning. Alex, Sam, and Emma then randomly decided that I was a pedophile. Why? I have no idea, but that's what they did. Naturally, I defended myself vehemently against these baseless accusations. Their response? "We are older than you. So we are right." Now, let me share a little secret about these individuals. Alex is a hypocrite who preaches about love and understanding but, in reality, tends to rant until they believe you've learned a lesson. Sam is highly manipulative and abusive, as reported by Max, who was their confidant and talked to me about it. Lastly, there's Emma, perpetually high on illegal drugs and involved with a 15 to 16-year-old, revealing themselves as a pedophile. Reflecting on this, it dawned on me that Sam and Emma were probably projecting their issues onto me. Come January, the situation had escalated into chaos. The three of them existed in an echo chamber, not open to anything beyond the single brain cell they collectively shared, yelling like a drunk toddler. Consequently, Max and I got banned from everything, and we've been happily living without them in our lives. Apologies if this comes across as a bit ranty. I still carry a lot of emotions about this, and my writing skills might not be top-notch. I hope it makes sense, though. If you made it here, go have a cookie or something, you deserve it. Story 3. My sister-in-law, SIL, for pretty much most of her life. She got engaged or married, I don't recall which, earlier than expected because her boyfriend/fiancé had to go serve a 6-month jail sentence. Casper, why was he going to jail? If you guessed for beating the hell out of the girl he dated before my SIL, ding ding, you'd be right. Surprise, surprise, a few years later, and he's beating her, to the point they would show up at his parents' place, and she would have bruises, and her mother-in-law wouldn't even say anything. I am guessing here, but like father, like son. She finally leaves him, and they officially divorce, but she lives in a Midwest small town and needs to get away, so we, SoCal, tell her to come live with us for a bit and move out here. She does, and eventually, she moves out on her own, but not before shutting down a relationship she had going with a very nice guy who had his life together, relevant later. Several years later, she's dating another deadbeat who has no real job, savings, etc., and is basically just a player who always finds a way to pull one over on people to get what he wants. She gets knocked up, and they have a girl. At one point, she's working, and he's not, but he takes her car, his is broken, and doesn't come back until the early morning or sometimes leaves her stranded and doesn't come home until the next afternoon. When he does come home, he passes out in the bedroom and basically ignores his 2-year-old in the next room, who soils not only herself but the carpet because he's passed out and can't even be bothered to change her diaper. We ask her WTF numerous times, she half defends him and half hates on him. She then gets knocked up again, same guy, and her reasoning is she wants her kids to have the same dad. I was like, yeah, you picked a real winner, better have more of his kids. They get evicted during the 2 weeks there was a lapse in the eviction moratorium for COVID. They were way behind on rent before it started. She's freaking out, tries to talk to him, he takes her car and leaves her stranded again. She calls us, and we bail her out, yet again, and tell her she can come stay with us again with her daughter. She's now also 7 to 8 months pregnant. She moves in with us, and he berates her that she abandoned him, but his only plan was to squat and try to find a cheap/free attorney to try and force the apt complex to let them stay. Didn't even cross his mind to pay his debts. She gets her car back, works her 2 crappy jobs, has baby number 2, and things seem calm for a little bit. Welcome to 2021, where shit goes sideways. The baby daddy starts to lose his mind, and he's now harassing her over voice, text, socials, etc. She blocks him on everything. He signs up for those free phone number apps and harasses her more. She kind of gets the hint and tells him to screw off. So things escalate. Somehow he's borrowed a car and now begins driving past my house, blasting music, revving the engine, and continuing to harass her to the point of threatening her life because she wouldn't let him come into the house at 10:30 one night to see his girls. We think he was high and a little off his rocker, who were already asleep. So I let her start parking in the driveway so she doesn't have to walk as far to the house to minimize the chance he catches her out in front of the house. She's panicked and super anxious every time she has to go outside. One day she's outside about to leave, and he rolls up fast, jumps out of the car, and pushes her out of the way to open the car door. No idea in the moment if he's abducting the kids or what. She's screaming at him, he's screaming at her, and the older daughter literally wets herself, she's so scared. She finally gives in and calls the police to file a report. I collect all the evidence, cameras out front, voicemails telling her he's going to kill her, text messages with a picture of him holding a gun, etc., and send it off to the PD. Several months later, they finally file criminal charges against him, and he's wanted. He drives past the house a few more times but starts to back off a bit because they've stepped up patrols down her street because of him. Eventually, a neighboring county picks him up, sees the warrant, and hauls him off to jail. He's released within a week due to COVID and overcrowding, no bail, just told to stay away from her, our house, and don't break any more laws. Here is the real WTF. Several months later, the court dates keep getting kicked down the road by both sides, and for some reason, she starts talking to him again. It gets better. One night she doesn't come home, so my wife, her sister, texts her to make sure she's okay. She says she is out with friends for someone's going away party, except we both think she's lying because usually when she makes plans to do something fun, she can't contain herself and talks my wife's ear off about it. Well, we had with her knowledge and permission, installed an ODB2 tracker in her car before because he kept stealing it. So the next morning, I checked the location, and as she said, it's parked at a motel not too far from one of her jobs, which I know she has to be at by 9 or so. I said screw it, I'm gonna go see for myself, and drive over there and do a slow roll through the parking lot. Sure as heck, her car is on one side of the aisle and his junker he got fixed at one point is on the other side of the same aisle, not even 10 feet away. I post up in a 3-story parking garage next door with a good view and wait. Sure enough, her and him are the only ones I see come out. She's yelling at him about something. He's paying her no mind and rifling through his bags of clothes in the trunk. He's been couch surfing for over a long time. I snap videos and pictures, and despite not wanting to get involved in her drama, remind myself that this clown came to my house and started his crap, so screw him. Off to the DA. The evidence goes proving he violated the terms of his release. He gets hauled in front of the judge, and they just turn around and release him again with basically zero consequences. But that was my WTF. The guy who threatened your life 6 months ago, you are now sneaking off to a motel to have a relationship with. Just wonderful. Oh, and of course, she's super upset at me for turning him in. The story keeps going from here, but this is already too long. Story 4. I've experienced 3 separate incidents. Incident number 1, I was admitted to the hospital on a Monday due to blurry/starry vision resulting from an assault. A doctor and 2 nurses explicitly advised me not to drive until I was fully recovered. On Friday, I had a driving lesson. The instructor, despite being informed beforehand about my medical situation and restriction from driving, proceeded to yell at me 20 minutes into the lesson for not having driven enough. TLDR, informed my driving instructor about my medical condition preventing me from driving, got yelled at for it. Incident number 2, my mom was away from home for 2 consecutive weeks, only returning on the weekends. On a Friday morning when she came back, coinciding with my driving lesson, she started venting her frustrations at me, throwing unfounded accusations and assumptions. Despite her absence, in Australia, a learner driver can only drive with a qualified driver present. The driving instructor ended the lesson prematurely and complained to my already upset mom about my supposed lack of driving hours, leading to another heated confrontation. TLDR, mom is frequently away for work, gets upset with me about it. During a driving lesson, I get scolded for something beyond my control. Incident number 3, a recent episode involved me picking up garlic bread from my mother as requested. When she returned home and noticed some dishes from the previous day, she erupted into anger, accusing me of neglecting chores and living like a slob, despite having completed the tasks the day before. This escalated into a heated argument. TLDR yelled at for a few untouched chores, resulting in an argument. I've encountered 3 separate incidents. Incident number 1, I was admitted to the hospital on a Monday due to blurry/starry vision resulting from an assault. A doctor and 2 nurses explicitly advised me not to drive unless I was absolutely okay. Come Friday, I have a driving lesson. The instructor proceeds to yell at me 20 minutes into the lesson, complaining about not having driven enough, despite my prior disclosure about being in the hospital and medically instructed not to drive. TLDR, informed driving instructor about my medical restriction, got yelled at for it. Incident number 2, my mom is away from the house for 2 consecutive weeks, only dropping by on the weekend. She returns around 7 a.m. on a Friday morning when I have a driving lesson. She starts throwing complaints, unfounded accusations, and assumptions my way. Despite her absence, learners in Australia can only drive with a qualified driver in the car. The instructor echoes the same grievances about my lack of driving hours, ending the lesson early and fueling my mother's anger. TLDR, mom is rarely home due to work, gets upset with me about it. During a driving lesson, I get yelled at for circumstances beyond my control. Incident number 3, this happened recently. I was picking up some garlic bread from the store as requested by my mother. She arrives home around the same time I do, notices some dishes from the previous day, and starts yelling at me, accusing me of neglecting chores and living like a slob, despite having completed the tasks the day before. This escalates into an argument. TLDR yelled at for a few untouched chores, leading to an argument. Story 5. I've been navigating the process of healing from trauma, stemming from the unfortunate timing of asking a girl out. In late April of this year, she turned me down, citing commitment issues and difficulty forming emotional connections due to a recent breakup. I've been grappling with convincing myself that I fell for the wrong person, often giving her the benefit of the doubt despite some questionable actions. Since April, we haven't had a proper conversation, and there seems to be tension between us, at least from my perspective, as I still feel a bit uncomfortable around her. Last week in October, during a techno rave, she posted a group photo on her Instagram stories that she had taken with all of us and tagged everyone. When I reposted it on my story, a mutual friend of mine requested to follow her. Curious, she inquired about him, noting that I follow him. Despite my warnings that he's a walking red flag and currently involved with someone but still entertaining another girl, before a different rave the previous week, I observed that she followed him back. It's worth noting she was sober at the time I shared this information. While I understand the gesture of following someone back as a polite move, it's perplexing to follow someone you don't even know personally, especially after learning they're not the best company. I find it challenging to defend her actions or behavior any longer. Perhaps my initial suspicions were correct, and she still gravitates towards a more carefree lifestyle. I had hoped she would have changed or grown by now, acknowledging that it's okay for her to turn me down based on personal preferences in choosing a partner. Thanks for watching.